This week on the Appalachian Weekly News. We have the latest updates on the 2020 election here in the High Country. This week on the Appalachian Weekly News. We have the latest.
Joining us on this Friday, November 6th, live from the Beasley Media Complex in Boone, this is the Appalachian Weekly News. I'm Katie Garceran.
And I'm Hadasa Rivera.
As we reach the end of the 2020 election, former Vice President Joe Biden is in the lead with 264 electoral votes of the 270 needed for victory. President Donald Trump tails behind him with 214, which leaves 60 votes up in the air. The states that hold these are Alaska, Arizona, Georgia, Nevada, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania.
Thursday evening, Trump spoke at the White House, claiming he'd easily won and accused Democrats of trying to steal the election. Trump made allegations of voter fraud, and his campaign filed lawsuits in Georgia, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. These three are set to join two already existing court battles in Pennsylvania and Nevada. The campaign also announced on Wednesday they'd be asking for a recount in Wisconsin due to irregularities in several counties.
Retiring Texas Representative Will Hurd tweeted, quote, "A sitting president undermining our political process and questioning the legality of the voices of countless Americans without evidence is not only dangerous and wrong, it undermines the very foundation this nation was built upon. Every American should have his or her vote counted," unquote. Now for the latest updates on races across the state. According to the North Carolina State Board of Elections, the incumbent Roy Cooper secured another term as governor with 51.87% of the votes. Republican candidate Dan Forrest only received 47.06%. The first African American in North Carolina history was elected for lieutenant governor. Mark Robinson beat opponent Yvonne Lewis-Hawley, gaining 51.66% of votes. In Watauga County, Yvonne Lewis-Hawley received 52.45% of the vote, but the win ultimately went to Mark Robinson.
One of the most anticipated results for this year's local election was for the State House of Representatives District 93 position. The Battle of the Rays was settled with the Republican candidate beating Democrat candidate Ray Russell. Pickett finished with 53.07% of the votes, while Russell had 46.93%. The race for State Senate District 45 was settled with Republican candidate Deanna Ballard getting 68.48% of the votes. In Watauga County, her opponent, Jean Supin, received 51.21% of the vote.
Virginia Fox will be the U.S. House District 5 representative, earning 67.02% of votes. She beat Democratic candidate David Wilson Brown, who only earned 31.04% of votes. Joe Biden and Donald Trump were fighting over battleground states, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania prior to Election Day, according to the Associated Press. Both Wisconsin and Michigan voted Democratic in this election. Pennsylvania still has not counted all of their votes. North Carolina is also known as a swing state. Not all of the votes have been counted yet, and no official results will be certified until the Board of Election meets November 24th. The AP did report that Wake, Mecklenburg, and Watauga counties were 3 of the 25 counties that voted blue in North Carolina. The other 75 voted Republican.
Biden has already surpassed former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton's 232 total electoral votes in 2016 by 32. According to a poll conducted by the Pew Research Center, the top 3 issues in the 2016 election were the economy, terrorism, and foreign policy. This year, the economy remained the #1 issue, followed by healthcare, Supreme Court appointments, and the coronavirus outbreak. In 2016's election, 4 in 10 Americans who were eligible to vote did not do so. Non-voters were more likely to be younger, less educated, less affluent, and non-white. This year, however, more Americans have voted than in any other election. While a final turnout number is still not available, nearly 160 million votes have been counted. This takes a large lead against the 138 million in the 2016 election.
According to the State Board of Elections, almost 5.5 million people cast their ballots in North Carolina. Of that number, more than 4.5 million were cast during the early voting period or by absentee ballot. Early voter turnout was dominated by Democrats by having 300,000 more votes cast than Republicans. There are still about 117,000 ballots that have not been counted in North Carolina.
Now for an update on the COVID-19 pandemic in the high country. There are currently 24 active cases in students and 2 in employees. All active cases are currently under isolation.
The total number of cases is now over 1,100 cases. More than 1,000 students, 49 employees, and 41 subcontractors have tested positive. University administration is continuing to encourage students to follow COVID-19 guidelines. In an email sent by Chancellor Sherry Everett, she advised students to continue to practice the 3 W's. She also encouraged small gatherings and for people to stay outdoors as much as possible. The university continues to advise students to take advantage of free COVID-19 testing. The chancellor also encouraged students to start planning for the holidays in the email. Tamara Nazareth is the student director of the Wellness Ambassadors. Nazareth says following the 3 W's isn't something you should do for yourself, but for others.
Just try your best to wear your face coverings at all times. I know it's uncomfortable, but it's something that we have to do to protect everybody else. I think that students, staff, faculty, community needs to remember that this is bigger than us and it's bigger than one person.
COVID-19 halted thousands of U.S. student study abroad experiences, not only this year, but for the foreseeable future. According to the Institute of International Education, 22,041 U.S. students were studying abroad during the spring 2020 semester. Universities evacuated nearly 81% of those students when COVID-19 began its global spread. App State's Office of International Education and Development canceled all classes abroad on March 13th. From Europe to Australia to Samoa, App State told nearly 120 mountaineers to pack their belongings and get home before March 22nd.
Now, Hadasa, have you ever wondered what it's like to be in quarantine and not be able to leave your room?
I actually have, Katie. It's definitely crossed my mind a couple of times. Shannon Pendleton has the story on what her experience has been like in quarantine.
As of November 4th, there are 25 active COVID-19 cases on campus, 25 of which are students. Anyone who tested positive or was in direct contact with a COVID positive person are required to quarantine by the school, and I am one of those people. The Super 8 Hotel is just one of the places where App State is sending students to quarantine. In the Super 8, after coming in contact with a COVID positive person, you are required to quarantine for from 10 to 14 days, but luckily my test came back negative, but I still have to quarantine because of this. This story will be giving you some information on what happens when you are in the Super 8. Only 7% of the quarantine space in the meal support is being used. According to an email sent out to the students on October 30th, if you have been exposed, the CDC recommends that you should quarantine for 14 days after your last interaction with a person who has tested positive for COVID-19. And you also need to stay vigilant of your symptoms. When you are required to quarantine, someone from the Environmental Health, Safety, and Emergency Management will contact you, send you details about your room number, and ask about any dietary restrictions you may have. Afterwards, you are taken to the hotel where you will check in and go to the assigned room number. After you check in, the staff seals the door shut with a sticker so they can tell if you have opened the door. Everything from food to towels and bedding is brought to you. Food is delivered in a cardboard box, which includes a hot dinner, a cold breakfast, and a cold lunch, and typically a Gatorade and a water. Everything in the box is in disposable containers and has throwaway utensils. At the beginning of the quarantine, you also receive a case of water. It can be replenished at any time. To follow the COVID-19 safety guidelines, which include wearing a mask, social distancing, and washing your hands frequently. For the Appalachian Weekly News, I'm Shannon Pendleton.
Now, Boone has so many amazing things, but one thing that is probably the worst is our traffic. Our correspondent Kat Fast has a story on how we're trying to improve this.
COVID-19 has forced the world to make many changes, and Boone is no exception. Here is what our local police department is doing to evolve with those changes.
Well, mainly through the COVID pandemic, our approach to all this has been first to educate people about executive orders and what the requirements and then also the suggestions from North Carolina Health and Human Services have been to reduce the spread.
The North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services states that COVID-19 spreads when people are less than 6 feet apart and through, quote, respiratory droplets produced when an infected person coughs or sneezes, end quote.
So we've taken a very strong educational approach first. If we receive a complaint, then we'll go to it and, again, try to educate. If we have to go back, we'll give a warning usually. And then as a last case, for a last resort, we'll actually issue a citation for a violation.
The biggest challenges the Boone Police Department has faced have been resource management and COVID fatigue.
They're really tired of the new normal we've been in. It is so unlike what I think all Americans are used to. I mean, we're not used to dealing with these types of issues and being as restricted as we have been recently.
With the Appalachian Weekly News, I'm Kat Fast.
You know, Katie, there was a couple days earlier this week where it was really cold. I had to turn up the heat in my apartment.
Yeah, I actually whipped out some of my big winter coats. Mia, can you give us a little bit more on why this was happening?
Well, I don't know about you guys, Katie and Hadasa, but the beginning of this week really gave me the cold shoulder. The high country gave us a quick cold snap early, but the sun is going to stick around. Today we've had a nice, mostly sunny day, though it did start a little cloudy. In typical Boone fashion, don't expect those winds to be gone anytime soon. But today, you can enjoy a brisk walk in sunny skies for the majority of the afternoon. The high for today is 62 and the low is 41 degrees. These temperatures are looking consistent with the weekend, so hang back up those winter coats. Sunday, expect a partly sunny day with some more of those light winds making their way through town. The high will be 63 degrees with a low of 48. In the evening, those partly cloudy skies seen throughout the day will likely create some fog for your Saturday evening, so be prepared for low visibility on your commute. This weekend, Blowing Rock is expected to have a partly sunny skies on Saturday with the highs hitting around 63 and the lows at 48. On Sunday, it will be a relatively cloudy day with scattered drizzle. The high will be at 63 and the low will be at 50. Beach Mountain will also have those sunny skies with the highs of 56 and the lows of 46. Sunday is expected to be partly sunny during the day with a slight chance of showers after 7. The high will be 56 and the low around 48. In Seven Devils, the high for Saturday is 62 with hitting the low right around 47. The day should be nice, but be aware of some fog developing in the evening. And for Sunday, expect a high of 62 and a low of 49 with light rain throughout the afternoon. Going into the week on Sunday, you can expect a generally cloudy day with some of that signature Boone fog. The high will be 63 degrees and the low will be around 50. In the afternoon, be on the lookout for some spotty light rain or drizzle that could go through Sunday night. During the work week, temperatures will hover around the mid-60s with cloudy and rainy skies with some thunderstorms on Wednesday. We'll finish out the week with Thursday and Friday with some more rain. With temperatures warming back up again, I'm curious of when we're going to see the first snow of the season. Katie, Hadasa, make sure you get outside and enjoy this warm weather while it lasts.
Well, I wish I could, Mia, but honestly, I have 3 papers to write, so we'll see how that goes.
I'm on the exact same boat.
Apparently yesterday was National Donut Day. I wish every day was National Donut Day, but apparently a new shop is opening up on King Street.
That's right. Our correspondent Grace P. has the story.
I'm here on King Street in front of the new storefront for Whole Lotta Donuts, Boone's newest hotspot to satisfy your sweet tooth.
The store has been under construction all week in preparation for their grand opening today, Friday, November 6th. Owner and Appalachian State alumni Mark Holland says that he opened Whole Lotta Donuts as a way to give back to the Boone community.
When I met my wife, we used to go on King Street many times. You don't have a lot of money in college, and you find a place that you can eat economically, but that was safe and that was a good environment. So I knew when we had a whole lot of donuts, we'd have an opportunity to bring it back to Boone. I want to give something back to the Appalachian State community and also to the town of Boone.
I visited the Lenore location to get an inside scoop on the sweet treats making their way to Boone. Owner and partner Mike Stelges says that students can expect a selection of donuts, fried pies, gourmet coffee, sweetbreads, keto products, milkshakes, and more. Of course I had to get a taste for myself, and the chocolate peanut butter donut certainly did not disappoint. In addition to being owned by Appalachian State alumni, all 3 stores are also managed by App State student Harrison Tilley.
They offered me the job to manage. Initially it was just 1 location, but now it's grown until 3 locations.
Well, Mountaineers, if you're looking for a sweet treat, make sure to check out Whole Lotta Donuts opening on King Street this Friday. These donuts are delicious, so don't just take my word for it. Get one for yourself. With Appalachian Weekly News, I'm Grace Powers.
This year has been nothing but stressful. With the raging pandemic, online classes, elections, and just your everyday responsibilities, sometimes we just need a moment to take a breather and relax. Our correspondent, Ayanna Willoughby, has the story on how to do just that.
Oh, don't mind me. I'm just working on opening up my third eye with my friend here. With times like these, more people are relying on places like this, yoga studios, to open their third eyes and find their inner peace. Yoga can be used as a way to exercise, connect with yourself, or as a religious practice. The word yoga means union, and the practice originates from Indian traditions.
It gives me a sense of peace, and it's a really good workout, so it gets me moving. And it also just helps to calm any anxiety or stress or anything. And it's nice to take some time out of your day for yourself just to do something enriching for your body and your mind.
Although it may look tricky, yoga instructor Madeline Tice says you don't have to be flexible to practice yoga. You can also make modifications to poses depending on what your body is able to do.
One pose that people should do once a day is probably a child's pose, just because it kind of causes you to calm down a little bit, focus on your breath and how you're feeling in the present moment. And it makes you just slow down a little bit. And
if you or someone you know is interested in using yoga to find their inner peace, visit a local Boone studio like High Country Yoga, located at 240 Shadowline Drive in Boone, or visit Neighborhood Yoga to learn more about online classes. For the Appalachian Weekly News, I'm Ayanna Willoughby.
Now we go to Connor Davidson for sports. Connor, what have you got for us?
Thanks, Katie and Hadasa. A little bit of a mixed bag this week, some highs, some lows. But let's start with last Saturday when App State football took on ULM in Monroe, Louisiana. Headed into this matchup, ULM had not yet won a game this year, and the Mountaineers made sure it stayed that way. App State took care of business 31-13 behind a great performance from quarterback Zach Thomas. Thomas threw for 152 yards and 2 touchdowns, and also led all rushers with 109 yards, which set a new career high. Running back Marcus Williams led the running backs with 103 yards and 1 touchdown, including a 48-yard touchdown run. The App State defense played lights out, forcing 3 interceptions, 2 of which were at the hands of defensive back Ryan Huff. Next up, the Mountaineers traveled to San Marcos, Texas to take on Texas State, who was 1-7 on the year. Kickoff is at 3 p.m. App State is a 17.5-point favorite, so I don't think they should have too much trouble in this one. Without thousands of fans being allowed to go to football games, many local businesses have taken a hit. Our correspondent Abigail Watkins has the story.
While less fans at game day affects the spirit at the Rock, it also affects the Boone community in many ways.
In years past, a full stadium caused the town of Boone to be very busy. From Family Weekend and Homecoming to the Sunbelt Championship, the game day population flooded Boone. But now that the Rock is practically empty on game days, local businesses have lost their game day profits. On a normal game day, you would not be able to drive down King Street, but while this year's been a roller coaster in many ways, local restaurants are feeling the hit due to a lack of traveling fans. Manager of Our Daily Bread, Mackenzie, says that their numbers have gone down tremendously due to a lack of game days. Even though there are no traditional football game days, annual fall tourists have still managed to give Boone's local stores and restaurants their business. While this helps, it does not make up for their normal football season income. When talking about business surrounding game days, owner of Boone Saloon, Kelly Dupree, says, quote, "Home football games typically mean that we will be busy. Depending upon who App plays and what day of the week, Boone Saloon might have an uptick in business for 3 days prior to kickoff and a day after the game. Sometimes we're busy for game day only," unquote. As restrictions are lifted and more spectators are being allowed to watch the game at the stadium, the town of Boone hopes that this will help their businesses soar like they have in years past. The next time you take a stroll downtown, make sure to visit one of the businesses along King Street.
For more information on game days in Boone, visit appstatesports.com. And remember to shop local. For the Appalachian Weekly News, I'm Abigail Watkins.
App State Wrestling will see some differences in the coaching staff this year. The team has 3 new coaches: Ian Miller, who is the head assistant coach, Randall Diabe, an assistant coach, and DJ Fellman, who is a volunteer assistant. Miller is the most experienced coach of the three, having coached at Oregon State from 2016 to 2020. He coached 10 Pac-12 conference champions and 14 NCAA qualifiers in his time at Oregon State. When Miller came to App State, he had a very warm welcome from the existing players.
Being around the guys now every day, it feels like I've been here for the last 4 years. It was really easy to kind of, all the guys are really respectful. Very first day I was introduced to the team, it was on a Zoom call, and as soon as that Zoom call was over, I was getting texts from all the guys, congratulating me and telling me how excited they were.
Diaby was a wrestler at App State until 2019. Last season, he was a volunteer assistant before being promoted to full-time assistant coach this year. Fellman is the final addition to the team. He completed his career as a college wrestler this year at Lock Haven, finishing with a 113-44 record. Each coach will bring something different to the team, and the wrestling team is set to continue its past success. App State volleyball had 2 matches last weekend against an undefeated Coastal Carolina team. It was senior day for 4 Mountaineers: Grace Morrison, Lexi Kohat, Emma Riley, and Kara Spicer. Unfortunately for these seniors, their last games wearing the black and gold at home did not go the way they planned. Despite a tough fight, Coastal stayed on top and won both games 3-0. With the 2 losses, the Mountaineers fell to 1-7 on the year. They started a 3-game series at Troy today. The first game was at 12 o'clock and wrapped up just a little bit ago. Troy took the first game 3-1, and the second game is at 7 tonight. Tomorrow, they wrap up the series at 2 p.m. App State women's soccer played in the Sun Belt Conference Tournament this week. The Mountaineers faced ULM in the first round of play on Wednesday. ULM struck first and early, just over 4 minutes into the match. The remainder of the half went scoreless, but App State came out quick in the second half as Izzy Woods scored the tying goal just over a minute in. Great defense from both sides sent this game to 2 overtimes. Finally, 108 minutes in, Jordan Grigsby scored the go-ahead goal off of a corner kick from Tess Kearney. App State advanced to the quarterfinals against number 1 Arkansas State, but there wasn't as much excitement in this game. Arkansas State scored midway through the first half, and they ended up winning 1-0. This was the last game of App State's season, and they finished with a record of 5-9-1. Men's and women's cross country participated in the Sun Belt Championships last Saturday. Our correspondent Allie Powell has the story.
This past weekend, the App State women's cross country team traveled to Mobile, Alabama to compete in the Sun Belt Cross Country Championship.
The women's team finished in second place at the championship on Saturday, October 31st. Graduate student Leisha Van Onselen finished second out of the App State runners and 5th overall. She crossed the finish line with a time of 17 minutes and 37.7 seconds. Also, she earned her 3rd all-conference honor of her career. Van Onselen shares what she will take away from her experience as an athlete at App State.
Yeah, you should never let uncertainty get the best of you. I think that's the biggest lesson we've learned this season is to just not overthink things. Just, we love running for just what it is. It's not about the end result. It's about how you get there. And I think this season has really showed us the power of, the team.
The team has now finished 3rd or higher in every championship since 2014 when the Mountaineers joined the Sun Belt Conference. Although this year definitely had its challenges due to COVID-19, freshman Faith Younds shares how the team had to adapt to schedule and practice changes due to the virus.
Definitely testing every week and the stress around that. Have any outbreaks like a lot of the other teams, but I know me and some of the other freshmen, we had to quarantine for the first 2 weeks, so that was pretty hard.
Izzy Evely placed 3rd, Leisha Van Onselen placed 5th, Sarah Sandwater placed 8th, Lila Peters placed 12th, Faith Younds placed 19th, Madison Christie placed 24th, and Taylor Houston placed 37th. Together, they made up the 47 points that achieved 2nd place.
Congratulations to the App State women's cross country team on completing another excellent season. For the Appalachian Weekly News, I'm Allie Powell.
And that's all we have for sports this week. Katie Garceran, I'm excited to watch the football team take on Texas State tomorrow.
Thanks, Connor. Let's hope we bring that Mountaineer heat in.
Hopefully. And now it's time for your High Country High Note.
A new fashion magazine called The Collective is coming to App State. Our correspondent Zenaira Marine Lopez has a story on when it's hitting the stands.
Hitting the stands at the end of November is App State's first fashion magazine, The Collective. Students in apparel design and merchandising majors have teamed up to style, write, shoot, and edit a fashion publication all on their own. Jessica Olshner is creative director and one of the co-founders of the magazine. She's a junior in the apparel design and merchandising department and sees the collective as an opportunity for those in the Appalachian State community to be involved in the fashion industry.
It's just so great because we're from a small town, and it's a great for us to amplify our resume and our experience, and to work in teams and to work with someone who has a complete different background experience than you do, and work with them, and you come out and make this great photo shoot that you can say you're a part of, even if you're just an assistant stylist on the team.
Neil Sampson is the magazine's other co-founder and editor-in-chief. He says the group is taking a sustainable approach to their work by working with secondhand clothing and more.
Most of our visitors come from their secondhanded, so we want to make sure we're being sustainable about the magazine. I don't think we've spent if we do spend money, it's when we're going thrifting. So most of our clothes and all the things that we're using are either from local shops that they let us borrow, or some of us are making some clothes, and most of them are actually ours. And we're just within our own community, we're just using the social media to seek clothes and items. So we're being sustainable about this. We're not spending money, and we're not spending money on fast materials and fast fashion and all those things. We're using our own resources here or in our backyard.
You can follow the group at @thecollective_magazine on Instagram to stay up to date on their photo shoots and magazine release. For the Appalachian Weekly News, I'm Zenara Marine Lopez.
And that ends our report this week. I'm Hadasa Rivera.
And I'm Katie Garceran. For all of us at the Appalachian Weekly News, thank you for watching.
We'll see you next time.